Imagine a car built right alongside the NSX and S2000. A car with 2 seats, an aluminium chassis, and a 5-speed manual gearbox. Oh, and it'll do more than 1,000 kilometers on a single tank of fuel. Sounds crazy, right? Well, it did exist. But could we build something like it again today? Not a chance. Now, if you're watching this, I'm going to assume you've heard of a little something called the Toyota Prius. The Toyota Prius, I think it's no exaggeration to say, revolutionized the car market. And yes, before you say anything, I know it's Prius, not Prius. Some of us were indoctrinated growing up. Blame this guy. It was the first mass-produced hybrid vehicle ever. A hybrid, of course, being a vehicle that uses a combination of both electricity and fuel to make power. It saved fuel, and it made people feel warm and fuzzy inside for doing their part to save on emissions. Even celebrities got in on it. But crucially, it sold like crazy. So what if I told you that the Honda Insight, this strange little vehicle I'm driving, actually beat the Prius to market in most of the world? For the critical US market, this was the first hybrid you could actually buy. The Prius didn't end up going on sale internationally until later in 2000. But even with this lag, it still ended up dominating the Insight in sales. By the end of its run in 2006, the Insight had only sold around 17,000 units. The Prius, in its first generation, had sold over 100,000. By 2006, the second generation Prius had already been on sale for 3 years. That second gen Prius would go on to generate a staggering 1.2 million in sales until it was finally replaced in 2009. That all being said, the first generation Insight always seemed to be much more of an experiment compared to the comparably more serious and mundane Prius. No back seats, limited creature comforts. It somehow has the practicality of a sports car without the sportiness. It was more of an engineering exercise that somehow made it to market. One last hurrah from Honda as they came off the back of the Japanese bubble era. It also came at a little bit of a weird time. I mean, yes, it's hybrid, but it's also weirdly old school and analog. It had a cable throttle, pretty simple electronics. In a lot of ways, it's a lot like a 90s Civic, just with a no compromises approach to design and materials. I don't think Honda ever really intended for it to sell in huge numbers. It was expensive to produce and way too compromised for most consumers. It wasn't until the second generation that Honda turned the Insight into a genuine Prius competitor. But in doing so, I think they lost that special something. So let's back up a bit and talk about the car itself. And I mean, look at it. It's hard to believe it was built right alongside the S2000 and the NSX. It's not really until you look a little bit closer and read the spec sheet that a bit more of that specialness starts to shine through. The body is a mix of aluminium and plastic to reduce weight. The styling, somewhat reminiscent of a melted bar of soap, gives this car a 0.25 coefficient of drag, which is better than the newest Prius. The wheels are recessed, for efficiency, of course. And speaking of the wheels, well, they're aluminium. And so are the brake calipers, and the drums, and the suspension arms. And you get the idea. All of this weight saving in the name of efficiency. So what's actually powering this thing? Well, say hello to the Insight's 1-liter, 3-cylinder hybrid motor, which when paired with the Integrated Motor Assist, IMA for short, produces a staggeringly sensible 76 horsepower. Now that IMA electric motor works a little bit differently than most modern hybrids. Where something like a Prius is essentially an electric car with a petrol engine working as a generator to keep it topped up, the Insight's petrol engine directly drives the wheels. with the tiny IMA motor literally wedged in between the engine and gearbox, providing a small boost of efficient power. That power comes from an array of batteries here in the rear of the car, which from factory at least are a pretty old school set of D-cell nickel batteries. Not too dissimilar to one of these. Now, spoiler alert, but that's not quite what's in this car. We'll get to that. First, the interior. Right. Well, it is very 90s Honda, but there's just a bit of flair in here that you don't really see elsewhere. I mean, you can actually start to see some of the lineage with the S2000, for example. This steering wheel, it looks to me like it's an S2000 wheel, just maybe without leather. The digital dash as well, obviously it's not quite the same, but I have it under good authority that electronically at least, it's compatible with the S2000's cluster. Everything around here is relatively standard, as I say. I mean, we don't have super high quality materials, but then again, this is meant to be a car that's all about weight saving. So you wouldn't expect to see a lot of unnecessary leathers and all sorts of things in here. It's bare bones without being unpleasant. These seats are quite nice, actually. I like the nice little bolstering. I like the color inserts, which on this JDM one and this blue are color matched with the exterior. So apparently behind the passenger seat is a pocket for the rear passengers. But yeah, I mean, obviously this is an aftermarket unit and we've got a lot of interesting things going on down here, which we'll get to. But I think the biggest gimmick of this interior has to be that manual shifter. We're in a hybrid and I've got a clutch pedal. It's all a bit interesting, isn't it? Here in the back, there's not a whole lot of room. What would normally be your boot space is taken up by a lot of batteries, which in this case aren't just any batteries. I'll let Austin, the owner, explain.
I don't want to take too much credit. I think with a lot of these things, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. There are some minds in the States that developed a system that put lithium batteries into one of these insights. Where I've deviated is that nobody's used these particular batteries before. These are donated from a Toyota plug-in hybrid.
And is it making any more power this way?
Quite a bit. I want to say from the factory, I don't know what it is in metric, the electric motor would add around 30 foot-pounds at 2,000 RPM. And it's up to about 90 foot-pounds assist.
Oh, wow.
So on top of the 60 from the motor, you're making about as much torque as a K20. Beyond that, things to make the car drive better, springs and dampers. It's still a work in progress, but I'm running a Mazda 3 springs on the rear and springs from a Toyota for the front. Yeah.
A mix of different manufacturers.
You know, it's finding what you need. When there isn't an aftermarket for the car, you have to come up with it.
So how does it feel to drive? This is more of an OEM plus build, and I'm pretty impressed with what I feel. The engine is eager, it's kind of playful. Now, yes, it's a hybrid. Specifically, it's integrated motor assist. So it's literally wedged in between the engine and gearbox, and it's directly tied 1-to-1. So that's the reason this car can be made with a manual gearbox. Now, it's a very interesting engine. It's relatively high compression, 11-to-1, especially for something that runs on standard petrol. That engine, combined with the incredible weight savings and aerodynamic efficiency, meant that when the US EPA rated this, they rated it at 70 miles per gallon combined. That's just a bit over 3 liters per 100K in our little New Zealand units. That's madness. Now that engine, like the rest of the car, is all about weight savings. It uses a combination of aluminium, plastic, even magnesium to save weight. Another fun fact about this engine, despite the petrol motor on its own making less than 70 horsepower, it's got forged internals. Yeah, find another car with that setup. Now, there are some really interesting mods, obviously, with this one having that lithium Prius battery pack. You might have noticed on some of the other shots, I've got these buttons on the shifter. Right now, I've just got it in 0, which essentially functions like a standard insight. The car is deciding what to do for me. But if I flick this over to 1, well, now the car is letting me add or subtract electric power when I want to. So I can push forward and to get a genuine boost. How strange, how interesting. That, I love it just for that. It could have stock everything else, stock power, but give me manual control over the electric motor like this. I'm sold. So one big talking point about this car, not only is this car available with a manual, but for the first year of this car's life, it was only available with a manual. And you know what? It actually feels pretty good. Honda are always good with their manual gearboxes, even in their front wheel drive stuff. It's never spongy or loose. Grappling with this S2000-esque steering wheel, how's the steering? How's the handling? Well, it's pretty good. I mean, the feel is a bit strange. Like on center, not a lot. I believe this car has an early electric power steering setup. But even though the feel isn't amazing, the car is doing everything I want it to do, and it's quite impressive for what, at the end of the day, let's not forget, recontextualize. This is a hybrid economy car from the late 90s. With that in mind, it's amazing. And the big reason for that isn't the special suspension setup or anything like that. No, the reason for that is weight. Because, as I think we should all know, weight is the enemy. You can add power to be good in a straight line. But if you reduce weight, it's good everywhere. Reducing weight to the level that Honda has done impacts every single driving dynamic for the better. Handling is improved, acceleration improved. It even improves your fuel economy because there's less that it has to lug around. The only downsides, of course, are generally with reducing weight, you're reducing creature comforts or practicality, and safety for that matter. 850 kgs from factory for a manual with air conditioning. And this one, Austin tells me, is probably below 800 with everything he's done to it. There are K cars that weigh more than that. They're so light. Now, if I really push, woo, get a little bit of speed going. And you know what? It is actually kind of fun now that I'm doing it, but yeah, it's not super fast in a straight line, and it doesn't really make a noise to speak of. The car does have regenerative braking. In fact, with the switches down here, I can do it manually. I mean, it's got that, it's got stop-start assist, so when you're driving around town and you come to a stop, the petrol motor will kick off. There's a lot of relatively modern conveniences on this car. Again, 850 kgs, 1999. Now the Insight continued on for 3 generations, but by the 3rd generation, it had lost that IMA setup and went to something more akin to what the Prius has. It broke multiple fuel economy records when it was released. So why, with more modern technology, do we find it so hard to repeat the achievements of this car today? Well, weight, for one thing. 850 kilos, this thing was light even by 90 standards. Now, compromises were obviously made to achieve this, and you can bet that modern safety regs would never allow a car like this. You'd need like a carbon fiber monocoque chassis, but Volkswagen tried that. Ask them how well that went. The other big elephant in the room is emissions. And I know what you're thinking. Why would emissions be a problem? This is a super economical car. Well, let me tell you a little story about NOx. To achieve such good fuel economy, one of the techniques this car utilizes is something called lean burn. So for many technical reasons that I'm completely unqualified to explain or even understand, lean burning engines produce a lot more NOx than regular engines do. Back in the day, NOx emissions requirements weren't all that strict. Times have very much changed. So yes, you could build a car that beats the snot out of the 1st gen Insight's efficiency, but good luck ever getting it approved for sale. So, the 1st gen Insight. It isn't a success story, but it does something for me that no other efficiency-focused hybrid has achieved. It makes me smile. It's unique, it's strange. It's an example of a car company trying something new and different. It may not make a lot of practical sense, but it's memorable and it's fun. I think it more than earns a place in history as, are you ready for the title drop? A true JDM classic.
You can express your opinion about the environment on your car, or you can do it with your car. It's America's first gasoline-electric hybrid, the Insight from Honda.